When the HTC Vive was first announced, I was finally sold on virtual reality's potential, but it wasn't the headset that convinced me. It was the one-to-one tracked controllers that were unparalleled at the time. They were clunky, they featured gigantic touchpads instead of joysticks, and still to this day cost $130 to replace. But they were the only thing we had, and they were amazing. Here we are 4 years later, and many Vive owners are left wondering whether it's finally time to give their controllers an update. Let's take a look. Welcome to Showdown, the series where we pit two different tech products up against each other and try to pick a winner. If we haven't met, I'm Aaron and this is Top Spec, your one-stop shop for tech content. Today we're going to be comparing and contrasting the HTC Vive wands to Valve's Index or Knuckles controllers, whatever you'd like to call them. I've owned the HTC Vive since 2016 and the Index controllers for about 5 months, so I believe I'm in a pretty good position to give you guys some good advice. Now that that's out of the way, let's jump right in. I'm going to be talking about the hardware of both controllers, but chances are if you're watching this video, you either have a Vive or you've tried out the Vive wands before, so if you're only interested in the Index controllers, jump to this timestamp. Anyways, the Vive wands. They're charged via micro USB and feel eerily similar to using a Wii remote. As I already suggested, they're quite clunky and come out to be 207 grams each, which is roughly half a pound. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're whipping these around like, well, Wii remotes, it's almost like you're using weighted jump rope handles, which might be appealing to people trying to get a workout in, but for everybody else, this is a clear downside. They're also super top heavy thanks to the iconic ring of sensors atop the controller, which doesn't help out much. Additionally, the touchpad, which Valve insists on putting on every single controller they make, simply is not ideal for VR and does not compare to a standard joystick. As for battery life, I actually couldn't find an official estimate from HTC 4 years after their product is launched, but in my experience it's between 3 to 5 hours, so I'd call it decent. It's also worth mentioning that the battery life is highly variable depending on what types of games you're playing. I remember when Serious Sam first came out for VR, people were constantly complaining about their controllers dying after like an hour or two of gameplay because the game was, well, full on bullet hell, and so that meant that your controllers never stopped rumbling. Now you can obviously disable rumble if you jump through a few hoops, but I'm not sure why you would because VR is all about immersion. Okay, I've been pretty negative about the Vive controllers, but I do have a couple positive things to say before I move on to the Index controllers. First, let's talk about tracking. The Vive wands make use of the same unparalleled base station tracking technology that Valve is still putting in their headsets and controllers. So despite some drawbacks in ergonomics and interactability, the tech is still largely here. Also, I'm going to talk about this more later, but the wands are simply better for Beat Saber than the Index controllers, end of story. I know that's only one game, but it's kind of a big game for VR, so it's worth mentioning. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say about the wands. That's $130. On to the Knuckles. The Index controllers are charged via USB-C and feel amazing in the hands. They're actually only about 10 grams lighter than the Vive wands, which really surprised me because they feel so much lighter. That's partially because their weight is much better distributed throughout the controller, but it's more because of their namesake, Knuckles. This feature's been talked about to death, but I feel like I need to mention it. The Index controllers feature a cloth strap that wraps around the back of your hand right beneath your knuckles. This prevents you from both death gripping the controllers constantly, but also actually allows you to fully let go of the controllers. Paired with stellar finger tracking technology and what Valve calls squeezability, their way of saying that the controllers are pressure sensitive, hand presence feels amazing. It's really impossible to describe how intuitive these controllers are because of that. After just a few short sessions of playing Half-Life Alyx, I actually forgot I was using a controller. Nothing in VR has ever made me do that. However, I do have some minor concerns about the lifespan of the Index controllers because the cloth strap that wraps around the back of your knuckles is made of cloth, which means it's prone to wear, and it doesn't appear to be easily replaceable. Hopefully Valve did their research and made it super durable. They did have 3 development kits after all. People have also complained about the joysticks and the trackpads, but it seems that Valve has fixed all of their issues with the controllers because I personally have not experienced any problems myself. The good thing is that Valve is being pretty good about doing RMAs for free for people that do have issues. So if I do experience any problems, I'm in good hands. As for battery life, the Knuckles blow the wands out of the water with an astounding 7+ hours of continual gameplay. I can't even stay in VR for that long, but I know that some people will appreciate it. The last thing I'd like to discuss is a criticism with the cloth strap that wraps around the back of the knuckle, and I haven't heard this one before. While it's highly adjustable, I find myself wanting to make it tighter, which only ends up inhibiting my pinky and ring finger from having a full range of motion. Maybe I just have weird hands because my palms are pretty big, but either way it's just a minor criticism and I can always just loosen the strap. The experiences designed for the index controllers are outstanding, but there's not a ton of them yet. Now there's obviously Half-Life Alyx, Boneworks, and the few demos that Valve themselves have put out, but that's really it when you're looking at games that were natively built with the index controllers in mind. That being said, there are a ton of other games that still support them and use a couple of their unique features, but Half-Life Alyx and Boneworks are the standout titles. With this in mind though, these two games really are the VR platform sellers at the moment, so if buying the index controllers gives me a more immersive experience in these games, it's worth it to me. Also, now that Valve has seen success with the launch of Alyx, it is likely that we will be seeing more large-scale VR games from companies such as Valve and other developers. As for the index controllers, they cost $279 as a pair, and there's no getting around that. As for the Vive, most people are just going to buy the full kit, which includes the controllers, but if you were to buy them separately, they come out to be $130 a piece, which is only $20 off of the $279 price tag of the Knuckles. Sorry, just kidding. HTC actually does not sell certified pre-owned Vives anymore. For some reason, they discontinued the program without saying anything, but you can still purchase them on eBay for a similar price, so if you're interested in buying a Vive still, you still have options. Anyways, back to the video. As for the Vive controllers, most people are just going to buy the full kit from HTC, but if you were to buy them separately, they come out to be $130 a piece, which together is only $20 less than the Knuckles controllers. Also, that does not include the fact that the Knuckles controllers come with Alyx, a AAA $60 game. So if for some reason you're trying to buy the Vive wands, drop an extra $20 on the Knuckles controllers. My consensus, unsurprisingly, is that the Knuckles are better than the Vive wands in almost every conceivable way. The only thing that the index controllers lack is compatibility with some older titles that are probably never going to be updated for them, but the games made for the index controllers have no rivalry. These are the real full-length experiences like Half-Life Alyx and Boneworks, so even if you're getting less games on paper, you're getting a lot more polished games. That's not to say that there aren't some great games and shorter experiences that don't support the Knuckles yet, but I think you get the point. The biggest letdown for me with the Knuckles controllers is honestly how badly supported they are for Beat Saber of all games. It's hard to communicate this on camera, so I'll get Chris to help me in the edit, but essentially it feels like the saber should go straight up out of the controller like that, but instead it's oriented on the touchpad and buttons, so it's more like at a slant like that in the game, and it feels super unnatural. That being said, there is a mod that you can download to try and help and fix the angle, but I haven't gotten it to work myself yet, so I've just been using my wands. If you fix this issue, make sure to let me know down below. I'd really be happy to have a conversation with you. Anyways, back to the point. If you have the money and you're looking to play some of the best single-player games available for VR, get the Knuckles. They're simply the best VR controllers out right now, and the wands do not stack up at all. That is, if you can even get the index controllers. According to Valve, the current wait time is about 8 weeks, so a near $300 2-month pre-order is certainly hard to swallow. I ordered them when they were periodically in and out of stock around Christmas time, so I got lucky. However, if you're wanting to enter the world of VR as cheaply and quickly as possible, it's not a bad idea to pick up a used Vive for a couple $100 and settle with the wands. They still work well with games like Beat Saber and apps like Tilt Brush, even if they are a little bit clunky. You can also purchase the index controllers when they eventually reduce in price and or more games support them, or when they're in stock in general. So yeah, hopefully you learned something from this video. I'm going to wrap it up right here. Please let me know if you guys like this format of video. This is my 3rd episode of Showdown on the channel, and it is currently my favorite series to write and host, so hopefully you guys vibe with it as well. Oh yeah, and if this video looked like shit, I'm sorry. I'm borrowing Chris's camera, and I had to set up the shot myself, but I had him on FaceTime to help me out, so I don't know, hopefully it turned out okay. But yeah, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content. If you'd like to see the other episodes of Showdown, click the card in the upper right hand corner. But until next time, I'll see you guys.